Hi, my name is Amy and this is Grace and we're from King Arthur Flour. So we're going to be baking again today and I'm really excited. Today we're going to be making scones. Scones is by far one of our family's favorite things to bake. I think it's one of the first things that you learned how to bake. We taught our cousins how to make it, so it's really popular in our family. They are incredibly versatile. We have lots of different choices for ingredients and different methods to use. So we're going to be making two recipes today, so you might see me check my notes to make sure that I've remembered everything. The recipes we're using are going to be in the blog, are going to be in the post for this video. Grace is going to be making a recipe called cream tea scones. The recipe I'm going to be making is actually a version of my mom's recipe, and that'll be in the post as well. In addition, I've linked two blogs to this post, and one talks about the different ingredients you can add to your scones to customize it. The other one talks about the difference between using butter, milk, and eggs for your scone versus heavy cream. And so those are the two different kinds of recipes we're going to be doing. Grace is going to be making her scones using heavy cream. I'm going to be using, for my scones, butter, milk, and an egg. All right, so we're getting ready to bake. So we have pulled our hair back, we've put on our apron, we've washed our hands, we've read our recipe, we've gotten out all of our ingredients. The first thing that Grace is going to be measuring out is 3 cups of flour. So she's doing all-purpose flour. Can you remind everyone how you measure a cup of King Arthur flour?
Any flour.
Or any flour, that's very true.
Fluff, sprinkle, sweep.
Fluff, sprinkle, sweep. So she's going to be doing 3 cups of flour. While she's doing that, I'm going to measure the other dry ingredients. So we're doing all of our dry ingredients first. I'm going to be doing 1/4 or 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then a tablespoon of baking powder. So baking powder is our leavening agent in this recipe. And remember, baking powder is baking soda mixed with another ingredient that will activate it when it gets mixed with liquid. All right, she's gonna measure that last one, and I'm just going to kind of sift these together. So for both of our scone recipes, we're going to go through the same process. Dry ingredients, and then for mine, we do butter. Then we're going to add whatever mix-ins we want to add in, and then we're going to do the liquid. All right, so we've got our flour, salt, sugar, baking powder. Let me get this out of your way. So Grace's favorite thing to put in scones is what, Grace?
Cinnamon chips.
Cinnamon chips. This is definitely one of our favorites. So we're putting in 1.5 cups of cinnamon chips. And then Grace's fat and liquid come from 1.5 cups of heavy cream and a teaspoon of vanilla. When we pour this in, we're not going to pour all of it in at first. We're going to leave just a little bit in our measuring cup because we don't want our dough to be too wet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in about, I'm going to hold about that much back. And so Grace is just going to gently try to mix it all together. So you don't want your dough to be too wet. You want it to be what we call cohesive, which means it comes together. There's not any flour left at the bottom of the bowl, but it's not all wet and sticky. You have lots of choices for flour when you're making scones. You can use all-purpose flour, you can use white whole wheat flour. I have made scone recipes using measure for measure. I have a really good friend who can't have gluten, and so when I make scones for her, I make it with our measure for measure. Want me to give you a hand? Okay. All right, so it's just gonna come together. I think we might need more of that liquid, Grace.
Should I do all of it or just leave a little?
Maybe just a little to start. That's perfect. All right, I'll stir this in. All right, so I am a hands-on baker. I like to get my hands into everything. So at this point, I'm gonna clean this off and I'm gonna put my hands in here. Because I wanna make sure it's all gonna come together. So I'm just kinda gonna clump it together with my hands and mix it. All right, so I can see how it's coming together a little bit better. I still have a little bit of flour on the bottom. Let me see if I wanna add a little more cream. It's kind of a dry day, so I think we will add a little more. All right, would you want to get your baking sheet, Grace? So our options for baking is that we can form these out into discs or squares and cut them, or you can scoop them. So we have a scoop right here that Grace is going to use. You do not need a fancy scoop. You can also just use a big spoon and that'll be fine. All right, so I think just that little bit of cream worked. Everything is off the bottom. All right, so I just want to show you. There's really not anything left at the bottom of our bowl. So this is going to make about a dozen scones. So if you want to, do you want to switch with me? I will bring my ingredients over for my scones and you can shape over there. Okay, got it? I'm going to switch. And I'm not going to drop it. Awesome. All right, so she's going to scoop out 12 scones onto the baking sheet, leaving about an inch or two between each ones. All right, so my scones, very similar, but different in key ways. I've already measured my dry ingredients. Mine are the same as Grace's: flour, sugar, salt, baking powder. In my scones, I've used 1 cup of all-purpose flour and then 1 cup of white whole wheat flour. I like the white whole wheat. I feel it gives it some texture. So my dry ingredients are already mixed. I'm just going to sift those together with my hands. And then where my scones differ is I'm going to be putting butter into my scones. So I've taken a stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup. I've chopped it up into little pieces like this, and I'm going to put it into my flour. I'm now going to work the butter in with my hands. If you have a dough, not a dough scraper, if you have a pastry cutter, you can use that instead. But again, I just like to use my hands. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break up those pieces of butter. I'm going to get them coated with flour. And then I'm going to take them in my hands and I'm going to flatten them like this. I want those flat, almost like making little mini sheets of butter. And I'm just going to work it like this. My butter is cold. It is right out of the refrigerator. I want to keep it nice and cold. And I don't want to work it too much. I don't want the warmth of my hands to melt the butter too much, which is why some people like to use a pastry cutter to do that. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I work it in. If any of you have ever made biscuits and used butter for biscuits, it's a very similar method. So as I said, you have lots of different flour choices for this. So again, you can use all-purpose flour. If you're going to use white whole wheat flour, you may end up using a little bit more of the liquid that you need in your recipe, because whole wheat flour has the bran, it has the whole grain. It's a little bit drier and it needs a little more liquid to get everything going. All right, I think I'm just about where I want to be. I want to be able to see some of the butter. I don't want it all to completely disappear. I do not mind getting my hands messy. All right. All right, so now this is where I am going to add my mix-ins. So I decided to do something a little different. I wanted to make a savory scone. So I have a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. I'm going to put that in there. It's actually a couple of different cheddar cheeses because it's what I had left in my refrigerator. And I have a few tablespoons of scallions. I'm going to put those in there. I'm just going to mix it up. Toss it a little bit so it's well distributed. It smells really good. And now my liquid is 1/2 cup plus 1 tablespoon of milk and 1 egg, and I've mixed it in there. So the difference between my recipe and my mom's recipe, hers has 2 eggs in it, which makes it very nice, a little bit more like cake. Mine's gonna be a little bit flakier. So I'm gonna mix this in, and again, I didn't put it all in. Just what I need to have everything come together. I have to say, I don't even think I'm gonna need all of that. See how it's all coming together? I don't think I need that extra little bit of liquid at all. I think we're gonna be good. Use my dough scraper, scrape this off. down, make sure I'm getting everything off the bottom. So to shape my scones, I'm gonna press them out into a disc and we're gonna cut them. So here's my pan. Thanks, Grace. You are done. Okay, let's put some sparkling sugar on yours in just a moment. All right, so here are my scones. I have a little bit of flour here on my counter. I'm gonna gently press this into a disc. All right, and now I'm just gonna cut it into 8s. So this recipe that I'm making makes 8 scones. Grace's makes 12 scones. So again, we're just gonna go half, half, and half.
Or 24 very tiny scones.
Or 24 very tiny scones. That is very true. You could make completely mini scones. Okay.
If only that one had flipped over just a little bit more. Right there.
All right, I'm gonna put mine around. I wonder if they will fit in a circle on this one. I think actually they won't. So if you're doing a circle, you wanna have a little bit of space in between. I use this pan a lot for scones and I know that they will not fit in a circle. So I'm just gonna line them up like this. You can brush something on top of your scones if you wanted to cover these with some spices. In a moment, we're gonna bring Grace's over here and we're gonna put some sparkling sugar on there because sparkling sugar makes everything look so pretty. All right. Do I have everything alternating? Excellent. Okay, so here are these. And let's bring yours over, Grace. Oh, those look really great.
Really big.
It's good. Big is good. So let's get a pastry brush, which I forgot to get out, but I know exactly where it is, almost. We'll take the leftover liquid in your measuring cup. Let's brush a little bit on top and we'll sprinkle some sparkling sugar. I'll use this spoon instead.
This is weird.
I think you're doing great. I'm gonna totally cross over you. So before we put these in the oven, we're going to put them in the freezer for 15 minutes. If you are not ready to make your scones just yet, or you want to make some in advance, at this point, you could put them in the freezer for about half an hour until they become frozen. Then you can put them in a Ziploc bag and you can keep them in your freezer. These are great. So if you want to make something ahead of time, or you only wanted to bake half, you can definitely do that. All right.
I'm gonna use this for yours.
I don't think I'm gonna top mine with anything. I don't have anything really to top it with. I think it'll go in. But you know what I might do? I'm gonna take a little bit of this mixture on top, just so that it looks nice when it comes out of the oven. All right. So we're gonna get these in the freezer for 15 minutes. Our oven is gonna come up to temperature. It's gonna be 425, and then we're gonna pop them in, and then I'll see you again when we take them out. Hi, welcome back. So our scones are out of the oven. We've let them cool off a little bit, and here they are, and I think they look beautiful. There were more, but my kids have already come down to eat some. Grace actually took one back upstairs with her. She is up finishing her schoolwork right now. So here were our cinnamon scones, and then this was our cheddar and scallion scones. And I will let you know, this is the first time I've ever made these with cheese and scallions, and they came out really nicely. So it's great. So I hope you give these a try. I hope you enjoy them. And again, you have a lot of flexibility with your ingredients and your choices. When we started to do these videos, we thought it was just going to just be for a few weeks. Actually, it's going to go for a lot longer because we're not going back to school. And I would like to hear from you what it is that you'd like to bake. Please leave a suggestion on the post if you have any ideas. I'd love to hear them. We try to keep things that are kind of simple, basic ingredients. You don't need too much fancy stuff, but I would love to hear what it is that you'd like to bake, and I will do my best to try to get to it. And as always, share your pictures and thoughts with us here. All right, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day. Happy baking.